Alright everyone, now we have to talk about Elton John, actually. Yes, he came out the other day, archived link in the description, and said, well, marijuana shouldn't have been legalized in the United States. It's a gateway drug. He's literally endorsing the gateway drug mythology. And I was thinking to myself, the tragic irony. I realize that Elton John now is elderly. And so maybe he's like out of touch and doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Apparently he's also mostly blind at the time. But marijuana is not a gateway drug. No, Elton John's gateway drug was snorting cocaine off of an erect dude's cock back in the 1970s. You're a pop rocker from the 1970s, so this is the era of Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and all of these other things. And you're going to lecture me on marijuana legality? And that makes a whole lot of sense. That's number one. Number two, you're not even an American. You're British, so what the hell are you talking about? Number three, wasn't there that time at Gatwick Airport that you got caught back in the 1980s with pictures of naked children in your wallet? That's a little bit weird now, isn't it? Michael Jackson got his home raided by the FBI because he had a goddamn pin-up magazine, basically, an art photography magazine with kids frolicking around and stuff like that. You've got literal nude pictures of children in your wallet that you're taking with you. And again, you're going to lecture me on moral issues. I don't think so. For instance, let me use myself as an anecdote. Back in the day, back before I was Stick Sex and Hammer 666, I was Botany 101. And I was a psychonaut. I did lots of drugs. I never did any of the hard ones like coke, like Elton John has done. But I used psychedelics and stuff like that. I never even saw marijuana until after I'd already used several other substances. I had already used morning glory and amanitas and mushrooms and so forth long before I even saw marijuana. It wasn't until a relative hooked me up with a couple of buds that I had ever even seen or smelled marijuana. It was never around me. Meanwhile, Elton John conveniently ignores the damage done to society by alcohol, by tobacco. There's the fentanyl crisis, opioids and stuff like that. They're handed out like candy to kids. I get my wisdom teeth removed when I'm 15 years old. They gave me a full half bottle of Perks. I don't know how many Percocets were in there, but it was probably enough to kill several people. Thankfully, I didn't get addicted to them because it made me nauseous and I puked up and then I just put them down the toilet. I probably should have sold them instead. But that's actually a thing. That was a thing back in the day. Marijuana, by the way, is not a gateway drug at all. It's correlated with the use of other substances. He is correct when he says this. But it's an inverse correlation that he's making. He's putting the wagon before the horse, so to speak. People who are addicted to other substances sometimes turn to marijuana so that their withdrawal symptoms will go away. So they smoke marijuana in order to keep food down, to suppress nausea, which it does fairly well, to get some sleep, something like they're withdrawing from heroin or something like that. And I have a feeling Elton John probably went to a couple of parties back in the 74 or something like that, and he had a couple of joints, and all of a sudden he found himself waking up in bed with coke lines on his face next to a couple of naked dudes, and then he made the connection that the marijuana had caused him to snort the coke and have the orgy. That's not exactly how it works. Smoking marijuana, generally speaking, leads to laying down and taking a nap, eating a snack or something. You get the munchies or something like that. You can also get the drunchies, by the way. That's what it leads to. Marijuana is literally nothing. It's the most lucrative drug on the goddamn planet, other than the cocaine that Elton John snorts habitually, and I don't believe him when he says he's been sober for 30 years. But it's not a gateway drug. This mythology was dreamed up back in the goddamn 1980s. The drug war metastasized, with regards to marijuana, from reefer madness, which nobody at that point still believed because they knew that it was bullshit. Reefer Madness is a funny movie, by the way. You should watch it while stoned. Disclaimer, that's just a joke. Watching it stoned is pretty funny. I might have done that on one or two occasions. Reefer Madness posited that if you smoked marijuana, the devil's lettuce, that you would crash your car, rape your girlfriend, kill your other friend, probably kill your parents, and all sorts of crazy shit like that. And it was never really true. It never really made sense. By the 1980s, the drug war had metastasized to the point where they said, okay, the public is no longer really accepting the propaganda that we made back in the 1920s and 30s. We've got to retool this shit. And so they dreamed up the concept of the gateway drug. The gateway drug mythology is that marijuana itself isn't really the problem. But if you smoke marijuana, pretty soon you'll be using heroin. It turns out that the exact opposite is true. People, who get addicted to hard drugs, again, they're using that for withdrawal symptoms and stuff like that. I am very surprised to see Elton John, of all people, trying to lecture on marijuana. You used so many drugs back in the 1970s and 80s. Dude, we can see it. You were all coke bloated, basically. Like, here's the list of famous drug users. G.G. Allen is definitely at the top because apparently towards the end, and he died of a heroin overdose, so that's fairly telling, apparently he would basically use whatever you handed him. So if somebody threw a bottle up on stage, he'd just chug it. If they handed him pills, he would take them. And it'd be funny if you went to a G.G. Allen concert back in 1992 and it was just aspirin or something like that. That'd probably kill him too at that point. And then you got like Ozzy Osbourne, who literally consents to random tissue and blood tests because they're trying to figure out how the hell he's still alive. Then you've got Motley Crue, and apparently Ozzy and Motley Crue got into a drug fight at one point. I heard this. This is an anecdote. I don't know if it's true. But apparently he, out-drugged all of Motley Crue at the same time. But Motley Crue would definitely be up there. The fact that all those dudes are still alive is pretty fascinating, actually. And then you get, Joplin and people like that. But Elton John would definitely be on the list. Claim that you're 30 years sober all you goddamn want, dude. I can believe that maybe you don't drink or smoke cigarettes. But I can't believe that in 33 years' time, being as rich as you are, being as pilled up as you used to be back in the 70s, that you haven't snorted a couple of lines. You were a cokehead back in the day. Everybody goddamn knew it. Literally everyone knew it. I mean, you hear the legendary stories about some of these people. Rod Stewart and some of the others. Janis Joplin. The Doors. All of them, basically. They use mind-altering substances. But to hear that David Bowie, goddamn, the Rolling Stones, holy shit. Well, that would be one hell of a party. Make Epstein look relatively tame by comparison. Only it wouldn't be as perverted, though. It's just much more drugged up. Elton John has gone crazy. You're trying to lecture people on marijuana legality from a foreign country on a topic you clearly know nothing about. You sound like Ronald Reagan talking about marijuana at the moment. And you were snorting coke probably off of dudes' assholes back in 75 or thereabouts. Please do not lecture on marijuana again. You sound absolutely retarded. That's about all. Peace out.